All right, good evening. Good evening. Happy Wednesday if you're joining us live tonight for the BGC Book Club's Book of the Month for October. My name is Marcy Thomas, and if this is your first time joining us, we normally are here on Mondays, but of course, we know there was some crazy stuff going on social media on Monday, and I didn't want to take the chance that we wouldn't have an opportunity to have this wonderful conversation and you wouldn't be able to hear it or enjoy it in the way in which it's meant to be enjoyed. So I thank you for being willing to make an adjustment and join us on Wednesday evening. So once again, my name is Marcy Thomas. I'm the founder of Brown Girl Collective and the BGC Book Club, which has been around since actually last year during the pandemic. We started the book club as a way to enjoy Black women and the things that they're writing and the stories that they have to tell. So as I mentioned, for those of you who join us normally, we're here on Monday evenings, but we've been off for a couple of weeks because I was celebrating a birthday. So happy belated birthday to me. I had a great time while I was away from you. And believe it or not, even though we weren't here to talk about books, I actually got a chance to either hear or meet some great Black women authors. I want to share those books with you real quick, and then we're going to get into tonight. So I actually had a chance to meet Bevy Smith, author of Bevelations. So if you haven't had a chance to read her book, that's one you may want to pick up. It's a great story, Lessons from a Mother, Auntie, Bestie by Bevy Smith. So I met and interacted with her. I had a chance to go to Gabrielle Union's event here in Atlanta for You Got Anything Stronger. So pick that one up and support her as well. This is her second book. So please support that if you haven't already. And last but not least, everybody's fave, Tabitha Brown. I actually met her on this past Friday, also here in Atlanta, where she came for the release of her new book. So these are some books that you can pick up if you like to support these sisters and hear more about their stories. So for this evening, without any further delay, we're going to go ahead and introduce our author for tonight, Morgan Jerkins, the author of Caul Baby. So let's find out a little bit about Miss Jerkins. She is a New York Times bestselling author and senior culture editor at ESPN's The Undefeated. She is a New York Times bestselling author of This Will Be My Undoing, Living at the Intersection of Black, Female, and Feminist in White America, which was longlisted for a Penn Diamonstein Spielvogel Award for the Art of the Essay and a Barnes & Noble Discover Pick. And she's also the author of Wandering in Strange Lands, which came out last year. Wandering in Strange Lands is the story of a daughter of the Great Migration as she reclaims her roots. And her third book, as I mentioned, we'll be discussing tonight, is Caul Baby, a novel which was released a few months ago in April. So without any further delay, let me bring this lovely young woman on, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome, Morgan. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's such a blessing to have you here. And one thing I normally ask people where they're joining us from. So forgive me and trying to get everything going. So if you could drop that in the comments as well. And Morgan is actually joining us. You're from Harlem World. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, but I just actually moved to Los Angeles.
Oh,
In July.
wow. Wow. That's a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Big difference. Wow. Okay. And as I mentioned, I'm in Atlanta. So we're really on opposite on two different sides of the world. So first of all, I just wanted to thank you again for being flexible. Monday was kind of crazy. So thank you for that.
No problem.
And just to congratulate you on all of your success.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. I mean, you've had 3 awesome books come out in the space of about 3-4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and still holding down a full-time gig. So, so that's pretty awesome. One of the things for those who may be familiar with some of your other work, of course, you work in journalism, so you write a lot of articles and things like that. One of the things I find unique about your journey is that, you have your journalism arm, and then, your first book was a book of essays. The second book was a book, kind of a historical family history and all of that. And now a novel. So that's, a lot of people don't do all of that. So God bless you for all of that
Thank
talent that
you.
you've been given
Thank
to
you.
be able to share stories in a variety of ways.
Thank
Is
you.
this something that you always wanted to do? Be able to write lots of different types of stories?
Well, it's interesting because fiction has always been my first love. And so I never thought that I would do nonfiction.
Okay.
It was actually through the guidance of my literary agent to do nonfiction first
Okay.
because of what you said in my bio. I had been writing a lot of nonfiction articles that dealt with race and gender and feminism. And because I'd already built
Mm-hmm.
up an audience through that particular lane, that's why my agent was like, let's go through this first. Let's break down the door through this. And then it would lead to more
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to do what you've done before. And it did.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. And it's kind of good to know because we oftentimes have people in the room that are writers or budding writers as well. And just to understand that sometimes it's not a straight path to where you want to
No,
go.
it's
Sometimes you
not.
have to,
It's not.
diverge and do different things.
Right. So I always like to tell people like when I graduated from college, I had it all planned out. I was going to get a job as a literary agent assistant or an
Mm-hmm.
editorial assistant at a publishing house. And then somehow someone was going to discover my manuscript in the printing room, in the copy room. And that
Mm-hmm.
was going to be my escalator to literary stardom. And that didn't happen. When I graduated from college, despite the fact that I got into a master's MFA program at Bennington, I did not get a job. I did not get an entry level job. And I was devastated because I went to an Ivy League university. I studied literature. And when I went to these job websites, the descriptions were going to Ford University, love literature.
Mm-hmm.
When I
Mm-hmm.
would go on these interviews, most of the editorial assistants, almost actually all of the editorial assistants with whom I shook hands, they were white women.
Mm.
And so I was devastated when I went back home to live with my mother. She was happy. But I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be stuck because I'm from a small town, so I thought I was gonna be stuck. And it was actually through being stuck inside and being on the internet a lot and seeing the exchange of ideas with people who were around the same age as myself. That's when I thought, okay, I can write and get my career off the ground this way, and that's what happened. So I had no intention in the beginning of being a digital writer. I had no intention in the beginning of writing nonfiction first, but that's the route that God took me on.
And it is indeed a blessing, with all of the things that you had the opportunity to do and tell your stories. And one of the things that I love is that you always, you're very honest in your stories and
Mhm.
that you also always center Black women, which is
Thank
what
you.
Brown Girl Collective is all about. So
Thank you.
thank you for sharing that little piece because it
Thank you.
was interesting. I'm like, how do we end up
Yeah,
here?
yeah,
Yeah, we also talked to Honore Jeffers,
yeah, yeah,
who
yeah, yeah.
she's like a poet, and now she's got this,
Right,
thick, So yes,
right.
every journey is different. So
Mm-hmm.
now, for those of who may not know a lot about Caul Baby, if you don't mind reading just a little piece, and then we'll get into the story. And just to let everybody know, if you haven't read it, we never give spoilers. It's just more or less an overview, so that you can
Right.
kind of know, what it's all about, and be encouraged to read if you haven't already done so.
So I'm just gonna read the first page and then I'll talk a little about it if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I'll read the first page. Something was bound to happen to Layla's baby, and everyone from the pews of Abyssinian Baptist down to the northern shore of Central Park knew it. One of the last vestiges of the black elite in Strivers Row, she was the only one whose brownstone was not punctuated with the sounds of pitter-pattering feet or wails in the dead of night. The first few times Layla became pregnant, she couldn't wait to tell everyone who crossed her path. Then, weeks later, some of those same people would casually ask for an update and she'd reply, her face crestfallen, her posture slouched. As the first failed pregnancies turned into several, people stopped asking, though she never stopped announcing, hoping that collective faith would carry her failing belief in the power of her body and in God's will. Eventually, she lost count of how many children abandoned her after the first heartbeat, or how many times she'd wake up with blood soaking her backside. Her body was desolate land, each crack in her earth a forewarning from the last child to future ones that this place was no home. Some of the fetuses grew, saw the dents of their past siblings in her womb, and joined them in the ether. After they disappeared, they left a hollow hole as a reminder of what could have been.
All
And
right.
so the reason why I wanted to start with the first page, because I always try to nail the first page when I'm writing. It's so important to nail the first
Right.
page. But
Absolutely.
I wanted to start with that because I wanted to bring up the stakes early on. So for those of you who are not familiar, call to be born with a call or be born with a veil is when a child is born inside the amniotic sac. And in Southern African American folklore, there's a belief that if you're born that way, you're gifted. Um, you can heal people with the call. You yourself are either physically impervious or you have the gift of second sight, which means that you can see in the future, you can see in the past. So very gifted children. And around the time that I was really crystallizing Caul Baby and contouring its shape, because in the beginning it was actually a short story, and I can talk a little about that too.
Okay.
Um, I was really interested in Black motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Mm-hmm.
an article that I read in 2018 that was published by the New York Times, and it was a feature on the precarity of Black motherhood because of institutionalized medical racism. And one of the statistics that the writer brought up, which will probably stay with me forever, is that the amount of Black women and babies that die in childbirth is larger than that who died in 1850, which means
Wow.
slavery. And that was the gut punch forever for me. My father is an OBGYN, and his life's practice, pun intended, for 30 plus years has been to center Black women in urban communities. And he even told me this a week before my book was published, actually. But the
Wow.
reason why he has been able to save a Black woman who was struggling with addiction and a Black woman who was upper class, the same thing, was because of the community. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I started writing Caul Baby as a novel, I thought about community and all that that entails because I lived in Harlem for 6 years. And Harlem is a very diasporic Black community, but also in the midst of so much change. When I
Mm-hmm.
moved there back in the summer of 2015, gentrification was already in heavy spin. So I was thinking
Mm.
a lot about displacement. I was thinking a lot about survival. And I was thinking also about the vulnerability of Black women in metropolitan spaces, because around that time there was a lot of talk about street harassment and all that type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I was thinking about, what if you had a group of women who were call bearers and
Mm-hmm.
they were safe themselves, but then also to take it up a notch. If you have these Black women who've lived in Harlem, they know about gentrification, they know about the
Right.
threat of displacement. So what if they build a capitalistic enterprise off of their bodies? What
Mm.
what are the stakes of that? And in the book itself, most of their patrons, as you can imagine, are white people. They're not of the community. And
Right.
Laila, from the excerpt that I read, she is. So there already is this push and pull between Black and white, between commitment to a community, but also even within your community, you're already a minority and you've been vulnerable in many other different ways. So these are the things that I was interested in exploring.
Absolutely. And like you hit so many things that were in my questions just in that.
Oh,
Because I mean the book is on Natasha's saying she's gonna go ahead and get her copy. She's getting the book now.
dang, I see the comment. That's so cool. I've never seen it like that.
But yes, it's one of those things that you did. You talked about so many things, and as I was reading, I'm like, yeah, it's this story, but it's all these other things going
Yeah.
on. And I mean, and ironically, or maybe not so, I did not realize until a couple of days ago that this is the month where we're talking about like maternal health and like women who have lost babies,
Right,
all of that.
right,
Oh wow, I didn't even realize that when
right,
planned
right.
this.
And I remember after I read that New York Times feature, it's so embarrassing to talk about it, but it's honest, right? Like I
Mhm,
would be in bed with the covers over my head and just looking at like all these Black baby Instagram pages. And I
mhm.
finally had the courage to open up to somebody about it. One of my Black female friends, we've been friends since college. And I was like, I don't know why I keep doing this. Every night before I go to sleep, I'm looking at these Instagram pages. And she was like, and I was telling her the background, the context of what I told you. And she was just like, maybe it's because you're celebrating that they're alive,
Right.
you know? And
Right.
when she said that, it made a lot of sense to me, because when I used to work at Zora, which was a publication for women of color, for Black women, I got so many pitches from Black women who were dealing with having fertility struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Those in my inner circle have dealt with it the same way, and someone that wants to be a mother someday too. It's like it does terrify me. It does terrify me in the sense of like your pain not being believed. So I
Yeah.
imagined, like, what if you had these women in the community that had this ability to heal, that had the ability to protect, but also you're at the mercy of their will.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what also are the risks involved with that too.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have another comment from Nancy. She says she already read it and loved it.
Yeah,
So
thank
yes.
you.
So yes, and I mean that's something. So of course, we start off with Laila, who is pregnant, who has had a lot of miscarriages, and and this is not a giveaway because it's in
Mhm,
the information to give about the story. She basically, the baby that she has is stillborn because she doesn't get the help that she needs from.
mhm.
Is it Melancon or Melancon?
Melanson.
Son, thank you.
Mhm.
From
Okay.
these women who have the call, and they would have been able to assist her, but for their own reasons have chosen not to. And I found that the whole story is just really sad, the way that things go down, and the fact that you have Maman, who is like the leader of this family,
Mhm.
who like picks and chooses who she's gonna help,
Yep.
because she's not going to make money from these people.
Right.
These people don't
Right.
mean anything to her,
Right.
even though they're a part of her community and they're in this community, and the family wants to be accepted, but then when they can help people, they won't do it. So it's just
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
strange
And
thing.
right. And the thing is that I'm always interested in complicated
Mm-hmm.
characters, but especially complicated Black women,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm thinking of this very fantastic lecture that I saw on video because she passed, but now I'm forgetting her name, but she her name is oh God, I'm forgetting it. I'm sorry, but she wrote whatever happened to interracial love.
I
I
know,
actually
I know who you're talking about.
yes, because I'm gonna look it up. I have to say the name. Kathleen Collins.
Yep, that's it.
Kathleen Collins. Thank you. Kathleen Collins had a master class at Howard in the 80s. And I showed it to when I was teaching in Germany. I showed it to them. It was the first thing I showed them in class. And she talks about the Christian metaphysic in America,
Mhm.
where basically to condense what she's saying is like we are not ever established in the normative. You either have to be the saint or you have to be the sinner. There's no in between.
Mhm.
And so for me, I thought of, okay, well, why don't I just destroy the normal to begin with and bring in magic? Right.
Right.
I wanted readers to look at the Melancons as, even if you think Mama's a villain, or even if you think any other people are the villain, as long as you understand the motivation for why they did what they did, I feel like I've done my job as an author. My job is not to get people to like the characters, because there are many points in the novel I was like, dang, that's messed up, you know. But I'm also just like, I want them to seem full enough that you understand where they're coming from, because that really means, that really, even though they are fictitious, that's flesh and blood for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny because earlier today I was talking to someone, and I'll just say who it was. I was talking to my therapist, right?
Uh-huh. That's right.
And we were talking about me and some of the things that I'm working on, and how for me, I want to do things that kind of like what we're doing right now. I mean, like, yes, we're talking about a book and we're talking about fictitious characters, but
Mm-hmm.
there are things within these characters that oftentimes speak to what real women are dealing with. And this
Mm-hmm.
book really
Thank
does it.
you.
I mean, yes, there is that magical element of it, but these are things that real women are dealing with.
Yeah.
Just some of the things of, having babies, not being able to have babies, having a baby and giving a baby up for
Mhm.
adoption,
Mhm.
looking for alternative methods, which comes later
Mhm.
on to actually it's early, where there's a midwife who comes in, and we talk about midwives and doulas,
Yeah.
all these
Right.
different things. And I'm like, well, that's so very real. That's so very now, even though it's told through the eyes or the lens or of being fictional characters.
Mhm. 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 And so that's what I really wanted to do. That I, a lot of times people ask me, they're like, uh, who did you base Mama off of? Like, who did you base this person off of? And it's like an amalgamation of Black women. It's never just one.
Mm-hmm.
I think about all the women, Black women who I hear conversing up and down the boulevards of Harlem. I think about the Black women who I know conversing when they're preparing food for everyone downstairs in the church basement. You know what I'm saying? It's an amalgamation of that. So when I was writing this book, it was two parts to me. It was trying to pay homage to the neighborhood that had given me so much, which is Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part, it was like I wanted this to be a living book. And what I mean by that is I wanted people to read this book and to sort of visualize the textures and the sounds and the
Mm-hmm.
aromas and the cadences of the people that were inhabiting this space.
Mm-hmm. And you definitely did a good job of that, because I never lived in Harlem. I've actually only been there once.
Mhm.
But there was so much of the story that I could remember from the time that I was in Harlem.
Oh, that's
Like the
great.
floor, and I could, the bodegas, and
Yeah, and that's what I
you
want to say.
know, and,
And that's what I want to say to anyone who's watching. Like all the places that I named in Harlem, like they're real. They're real
mm-hmm,
places.
mm-hmm,
And I also believe subconsciously I was very specific about locations because I don't know if they're gonna be there for
that's
how
true.
long,
That's
you
true.
know? And I think about when Charles Dickens writes about London or Dostoevsky writes about St. Petersburg, I'm not on that level yet. I hope to be in terms of my
Mhm. On
legacy.
your
But
way.
what would you say?
On your way.
I know, God willing, but it's like I want people to look at Harlem, but like they could literally do a literary tour of
Mhm,
all of these different places, or they can go there and know the coordinates and say, that's where Mama and her family lived. This is where they had that soul food dinner. And I go in right now and sit in the same corner. You know
right,
what I mean?
right, absolutely. And that was very powerful as well, because Harlem became a character in the story.
And
you
that's
know.
what I wanted. As someone who was really one of my weakest points as a writer, to be honest, is writing about space. I'm
Mm.
not good at writing about space. I came from South Jersey. I really didn't like where I grew up. I'm learning to like it now, the further I'm away
Mhm,
from it. But I used to be terrible at space. But when I lived in Harlem, I realized because of the pride I had in it, I was like, you have to just sit in silence if you have to.
mhm,
And sort of reimagine what that space looks like on the page.
mhm. One of the other things that was an interesting part of the story was thinking about Josephine and her relationship with Landon.
Yeah,
Or,
so Josephine is in arrested of development because the brownstone in which she lives with her mother and her sister and her sister's child, that is her universe.
mhm,
Um, and there's even a scene where one of my beta readers who was reading it loved this scene, and it was really heartbreaking for me to write. It's when Josephine actually has Hallow, the
mhm,
adopted child that has the Caul Baby, and she's ready to leave. She's tired. She sees a possibility, and Mama opens up the door. The cold air almost knocks over. She says, "Go. Where are you gonna
mhm,
go? You have no education. The money that you get comes through me. You're probably not gonna make it further than Marcus Garvey Park." And she
mhm,
stays. Josephine is in a extramarital affair, or rather, Landon is in an extramarital affair with Josephine. And it was interesting because I'm not going to spoil it, but
right,
one of the critiques of my book was that men are really rarely held accountable in my book, which is true. And with Landon, I wanted to show how men and women grapple with loss because I'm not going to spoil it, but like him and Josephine have grappled with a lot of loss. Josephine has not been able to produce a call-bearing child. That's part of
Right.
the loss there. Landon, he's had to deal with loss himself with Josephine.
Right.
And so everybody's dealing with grief in
Mm-hmm.
a different way as they're trying to move forward. And their relationship is very complicated because you see the divide or the collision between what is and what could
Mm-hmm.
be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
isn't that usually how it always is when
Right.
when you get in a relationship and it really isn't a relationship you're supposed to be in?
Right. Because and it was just crazy, just the way that he was able to even move and function, and it was just a lot in that. And how he played a catalyst in what happened with Laila, as well as
Yeah.
happened with Amara. So he was involved in everybody's life, all of the women's lives that are in
Mhm.
this book in a variety of ways. So yeah, he was a very interesting character,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
just all of that. Oh, we have another comment here I want
Okay.
everyone to see. This book is so needed for our community because this subject matter is pushed under the rug and a lot of Black women suffer in silence. So with this book, it
Thank
opens the
you.
conversations and gives women the comfort that they are not alone. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Natasha. That is so true. As I mentioned earlier, I don't have any children, but I was learning like what's the call? I Googled it, like, what is this? I'm
And a lot of
learning
people
things
don't know
and
it.
exploring different things.
And I want to just encourage anyone, like, if you don't know what a call is, like, it's okay. Like, I've had a bunch of African American people tell me, like, I don't know what that is. It's funny because I've heard it on literally only 2 occasions. I have an
Okay.
aunt who is very, very perceptive. Like, the way that she can read people is very sharp. And I remember my mom said in passing, she was like, "Yeah, I've heard that. It's been said she was born with a veil," and then we just moved on. We never
Mm-hmm.
even talked about it. The other time I heard of it, was when I was doing field work in the St. Helena, which is a
Okay.
sea island of the South Carolina Low Country,
Mm-hmm.
and I was learning about root work and root doctors and conjurers. And one of my liaisons, she told me about the most famous root doctors, Dr. Buzzard, and Dr. Buzzard was said to have been born with a call.
Okay.
Those are
Okay.
the two instances, but it wasn't talked about abundantly on
Right.
either of those circumstances.
Well, that brings up another question because I do know that you are a Christian.
Yes.
And as a Christian woman, and of course, call and all the magic and all of that stuff, how was that for you, tapping into that and recognizing that there are other spiritual things that people may follow or believe in that, aren't necessarily a part of the Christian faith because it is quote unquote magic.
Right. Well, here's my thing is that I think when I did field work for my second book and I went down to the South, I realized so many of our belief system and our ways uh were demonized because of white Western tradition, because of Western supremacy, and also because of the fact that many of our ancestors, when they migrated north, they abandoned a lot of those belief systems for a more cosmopolitan way of living. For me, like when I think about spirits, I was raised Pentecostal. So that's
Mhm.
all I heard about. So I
Mhm.
never thought about that being diametrically opposed because a lot of the beliefs that we have, contrary to popular belief, it is rooted in hoodoo. It
Mhm.
is rooted in understanding that there are entities that are among us, right? But in the book, even in the book, like I realized that, as I mentioned, Harlem is a diasporic place. You
Mhm.
have people who are Christians, you have people that are Muslims, you have people who follow ancient Egypt Kemetic tradition, you have those who follow Ifa. And I wanted to honor that because at the end of the day, even if I'm not a practitioner of
Right.
Ifa, for example, like there's a mention of the Orishas in Caul
Mhm.
Baby, there's a
Mhm.
mention of Yemaya, for example. Even though
Mhm.
I am not a practitioner of that, I am mindful that if it wasn't for that belief system that survived the Middle Passage,
Right.
many of my brothers and sisters would not have been able to survive. So
Absolutely.
it's still important to acknowledge and respect that.
Absolutely. And I can appreciate that because the reality of it is we're not we're not a monolith. We're not a
No, we're
monolith
not.
group of people. We do have a lot of different ideas and beliefs, and sometimes it's a combination of
But
things.
it is because
you know?
because the fact of the matter is, if I am a descendant of those who have been enslaved, that means that they have combined many traditions and belief systems to survive, to order to pass those things down. So even like in the church, St. Philip's Church, where I was baptized in that church, the Episcopalian faith, you know, Laila is thinking about whether or not she should believe in the
Right,
Melancon. Is it right to believe in it? Is it antithetical to my beliefs? And
right,
that was really important for me to write because as someone who's learning more about womanist theology, Black liberation type Christianity, and also thinking about ancestral veneration, all those other things, I'm wondering if like, why is it incompatible?
right.
Why is it? And if I'm a descendant of people that had to go through many different bloodlines to be
Mhm.
in 2021, then why can't I hold that whole universe if it's already there? It's already within me, you know? So that's something I think about.
And that's good. That was really good to see. Now, in the story, of course, we have Amara, who
Mm-hmm.
is the mother of Hallow,
Mm-hmm.
who is the adopted child
Mm-hmm.
of the family with the
Mm-hmm.
call.
Mm-hmm.
And near the end of the book, I'm like, oh, okay, I see the connection. I see how
Right,
that
right,
happened.
right, right, right.
You almost, if you're not really paying attention, it'll slip right past you.
I
Like,
know, and that's why I was like, I don't want to spoil
ah.
it, but it's like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that was just like, wow, okay, now I get it. But I just found that even though she was not, she had her baby, and because she was a young woman in college, like other young women do. I mean, let's just be honest. They're in college, they may choose to not have the child at all, through
Mm-hmm.
abortion, or they may, decide to give the child up for adoption, as Amara did. But
Right.
for her, she really latched on to the thing with Laila, who is her aunt, and just
Mm-hmm.
seeing what happened to Laila after losing her child, having a stillborn child, and just all the other things that happened to
Right.
Laila. And I just found that really interesting that there was such a connection
Right.
between the
Right.
two of them. Now, how important was that? Because one of the things in this book is about relationships between and among women, sometimes family, and sometimes community wide. But what was the thought process, or what was the idea with having Amara latch on to what happened to her aunt?
Oh, because it's like, you know what? I think her and her aunt were close. And her aunt said something subtly, and I hope people picked up on it when they were having a dinner. And her aunt asks her, "What do you want to be?" She's like, "I want to be a lawyer." She's like, "Well, everybody wants to be a doctor, lawyer. You better have a purpose. You need to
Mm-hmm.
have some type of motive for why you want to practice law." And she knows, just like her mother, how much Laila has been suffering to have a child. And to her, to see that she had been rejected by this family was like the ultimate act of cruelty. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was her motive. It's like, I want to be in law to go after these women, to go after those who take advantage of people like her aunt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. And it also speaks to the fact that sometimes it can be the thing, it can be one seemingly, even though that wasn't minute, but seemingly, well, one minute or one experience that can really change the
Yeah,
trajectory of your
all
whole
it
life.
takes. All it takes
you know
is one thing that
hmm
can really stay with your psyche and like you said, influence the trajectory of your life.
Right, and I just thought that was powerful the way that happened. Um, but back to the and I'm going to say the name wrong. So the M family.
Yeah,
Back
that's
to
okay.
them for a minute. There are a lot of dynamics with mothers and daughters and family within that family as well. Because you have Maman, who's in charge, large and in charge. Then you have Josephine, who we've already talked about a little bit. There's also Iris, who's the other daughter who isn't able to, produce the call and things like that, but has some other issues.
Right.
And then she has a daughter, Helena. So it's just a lot of like interaction of women and cousins and aunts and and nieces and all of that. And just from your own journey, are there a lot of like different types of relationships within the women within your family that kind of prompted you to want to tap into all those different layers?
I think it was just like I'm very observant about dynamics between women, especially across generations. And the older I get, the more I realize that my mother is her own person. She's
Mm-hmm.
had her own stories before me, and she's having her own even after I flew from the nest, figuratively speaking. And I just wanted to, and I think me writing fiction about Black women makes me have more compassion and understanding for the things we don't say, and the
Mm-hmm.
interiorities that we cannot access. And I think that's what I really wanted to tease out in the book. Yeah, I wanted to create a complex book, but I also wanted people to understand, even when the book ended, that a lot of things are still irresolute, as families are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I just thought that was a lot because it made me think of have aunts that have different situations, and these people might
Yeah.
get along, and those might not get along, and
Right.
there was some jealousy between the cousins for a while. Then at one point, they were able to come together and learn to love and support each other,
Right.
and
Right.
all of that. So that's something.
Mhm.
Now, the whole thing about the money.
Yeah.
Let's circle back around to that. We
Okay.
know that the whole goal for the Caul bearing family was to be able to make money. They were
Okay.
trying to make this money to survive.
Mhm.
And as we already touched upon, neglecting the people in their own community,
Mhm. Mhm.
going towards making money to survive.
Mhm.
It made me think a lot of sometimes how people within our community may have, different businesses or whatever the case may be, and they go other places and not support or be as in tune with the needs of their own community. Was
Right.
that something that was, well, obviously it was purposeful because it was included in the book, but I just found that very unique that you chose to include that in the book as well.
Yeah, because I feel like that is always the push and pull for people who have means in Black communities. How much of it is it going to be for you, and how much of it is it going to be for everyone?
Hmm.
And that is the push and pull also between individualism and collectivism. If
Hmm.
you are the descendant of active African people, it's usually collective, but because you live in the
Right.
Western world, it's individual. And we're
Right.
seeing in the pandemic how individualist pursuits ruin us all.
Right.
And so that is something that I've always tried to tackle in my book. I've tackled it, and this will be my doing. I'm tackling it in fiction because it's always going to be an issue as inequality persists in this nation or just worldwide. It's like, well, how much treasure do I store for me and my own versus for everybody else? And I guess people can answer the question when they read it, like, because they did not build from within,
Hmm.
was it to their own demise, or either way everybody was vulnerable regardless,
Right.
you know?
Right. Right. And the thing that was crazy to me, that even though they were getting all this money and doing all these things, and the house was falling apart around them. So it's kind of like,
Well, yeah, and so Mama is, Mama is, she, even though she's, it's like she, I position her as the villain a little bit. She's dealing with displacement trauma. She was born and raised in Natchitoches, Louisiana. She migrated to Harlem because her community was being destroyed from the outside in, and she doesn't want to be uprooted again. So she
mm-hmm,
is in her mind, as an older woman, come hell or high water, I'm staying here. But as you
mm-hmm.
mentioned, that this home is literally decaying from the inside out.
Yeah, I was like, wow, you would think, I mean, they did some things, but not enough to try
Right,
to maintain their own space that they were fighting so hard to hold on to.
right.
So just fast forwarding a little bit later on in the story, Amara gets a chance to, she grow, she was already like in her early, like late teens, early 20s, but the story progresses and everyone
Mm-hmm,
ages,
mm-hmm,
and Amara becomes the person that she wants to be. She is working as a lawyer, as she said she wanted, and easing her way towards dealing with this family that hurt her family.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, Hallow is growing up, and it's just very interesting. Another thing, and I wrote this down. Another thing that's very interesting is I saw that you have the difference in, how do I put it? The mothers who have children who want different for their children, and the mothers who have children who want their kids to follow the same path.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And
And that's real. And that's, I mean, the latter route is, I think, Maman's biggest dilemma, because it's like she doesn't have anything. She doesn't have her husband. The only thing that she has really is her daughters and this brownstone.
mhm,
If that both of them go, she's on her own. You
mhm.
know. So yeah.
Yes, and with Hallow, who is the daughter, the Caul Baby,
Mm-hmm.
she is one of the main ones who decides, hey, I don't, yeah, what we're doing over here is all right, but I need to do something different, which,
Right.
kind of opens up the window for some other things to happen later on in the story, near the end of the story. But
Mm-hmm.
I thought that that was powerful. That there was a part of her that kind of knew something was different, that something was off.
Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Right.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of just falling in line with what people wanted her to do, she was like, okay, I'll do that, but I'm going to go over here and do this as well and try to figure out a way to get out of that. So she was her real mother's daughter in a lot
Mm-hmm.
of ways, in many
Right.
ways.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So that I thought that that was really good. Let me making sure I hit on all of the things. Um, yeah. So with the whole piece about black mothers and black motherhood and the loss of children and just exploring the options, was that something that I can assume you had to do a lot of research and digging in to understand all of that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to work in my dad's medical practice, like as a
Okay.
receptionist. So I would see women coming all the time. My mother would tell me about what it was like being pregnant with me, how the doctors wanted her to abort.
Mm,
I've heard all of these stories in past. So I mean, I think I definitely researched a lot about medical racism with regards to black women and our pain, but also it was just naturally coming up. Like, I mean,
mm,
when Serena Williams spoke
right.
about it, how she almost died, Beyonce spoke about it. So it
Mm,
was like, even though I didn't have to go too far, because black women
right.
were always being so vocal about it.
Hmm. Hmm. And it also makes me think about Gabrielle, who I mentioned earlier, and her
Yeah.
experience that, she is kind of like Josephine, that she wound up her child. What I mean, not exactly, but
Right, right. No, I
her
know what you're
child,
saying.
her child wound up coming not through her, but it was, her child. So yes, I mean, there's just so many different ways. And another thing that it also makes me think about is just how we are as humans and how
Hmm.
we deal with people, women, as it pertains to maternity and maternal health, and who has a child and who doesn't have a child, and what you say to people.
Hmm.
Going back to the very beginning with Laila, how she, would tell people, and then, things wouldn't happen. Then it got to a point where people didn't want to say anything to her or whatever, because they saw that she kept experiencing loss. So they didn't want to talk about it anymore.
Right, 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 for sure, for sure. Yeah, definitely. That's what I think is the undercurrent of probably, as I mentioned earlier, like just dealing with loss, dealing with grief, and how to move forward and all those sort of things. And what if you can't, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's just something for all of us, collectively to be mindful of, when talking to women about what's going on with them.
Right, right.
you
And I
know,
go and I really were like, when you got married, it was like, when you having a kid. And it wasn't until I moved
right,
to New York where I learned, I was like, you don't ask those questions. Like, it's
right.
very personal, and you don't know the route that, or the road that women on, and how much they struggle. I had no idea until I moved out of that space.
So that's just, amongst so many other things for me personally, that's a takeaway. Well,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, I don't have any children, so I've been through that. Like, oh, people telling me, oh, you're selfish because you don't have
Oh,
kids, or,
wow. Wow.
when are you going to do this? Or Mother's Day come, and I say, well,
Wow.
I'm not a mom. Oh, well, you will be. I'm like, you don't know
Ah,
the
you like, no, but
story.
I don't, what if I don't want that?
Right, because there's
That,
that part too,
right, right,
So
right.
just, allowing women to have their own lives and live their own lives, and just being cognizant of how we talk to and how we express. And, I've seen shirts that say, stay out of my uterus, whatever.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mind your business, because you can say things that can bring up a lot of pain for people,
Right,
if
right,
they especially if they're experiencing loss or having difficulty in that regard. So
right.
wow, it was a really great book.
Thank
I'll
you.
show the picture again. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed reading it and
Thank
learning a
you.
lot.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so much.
about these women's stories, about other women who may have similar stories, about Harlem, the
Thank
dynamics of
you.
family, all of that. I mean, there really is a lot in the book. So for those who have not yet had a chance to read it, I would definitely suggest that you pick it up, and or
Thank you.
listen to the Audible, whatever works for you. Get a
Thank you.
chance to get in and learn. And I believe another takeaway is, if there's a way that you can help somebody or encourage somebody or support somebody along
Right.
the way, because it's fiction, but we can always learn and take something away from the things that we read.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what is it that you have coming up next? Because I know you stay busy.
Yeah. So I'm actually working on another novel right now.
Okay.
So that's what I'm working on, and it's epic in scale. So pray for me to
Okay.
send good vibes.
Okay.
But that's what I'm working on right now.
Okay. So it's gonna be one of them about this thick.
We're gonna see. I mean,
We
right
don't
now it is
see.
thick. It's my largest project to date. But
Okay.
who knows,
Okay.
after the many round of edits that it's gonna go through? Who knows what's gonna happen?
Right, right. Well, we definitely will be looking forward to that. And, as well, for those in the meantime, betwixt and between time, if you haven't read Morgan's other books, please pick them up as well, because we definitely want to support our sister as she is growing in her field, and, putting stuff out there. She's putting in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, I know.
Thank
To
you.
bring these things to fruition. So it's just important that we support, the people who are creating things with us in mind.
Thank you.
Let's see here. I have a comment from Natasha. Great conversation. Can't wait. Oh, thank you. Your hair looks great. Yeah, it's probably gonna look different the next time you see me. Thank you. You know how we do. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Laura saying, yes, it didn't come up. Yes, we're always learning. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that's important to me. I've been an avid reader for years, since I was a shorty. I always loved to read. And now, being able to share and speak to authors and just learn more about their process and what they're doing, and, how they got to where they got to. That's just very important. And, we really do need to support our
Yeah,
Black
absolutely.
authors,
Absolutely.
because in the past, when the world was open, there are some like book festivals that I would go to, and there would be Black authors, and I walk in, and there wouldn't be Black people in there with the Black authors.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Right. And it's not to say that we don't read, because we know that we do,
Right.
but just being able to show up and
That's,
be a
yeah.
part of the conversation, that's
Right.
just so important for us to do that. Actually, it was Tayari Jones I met,
Yep.
and she was like, "Ooh, so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming."
No, she's amazing. She's amazing.
Right, right. So it's just like, you're Tayari Jones. Why wouldn't? But yeah, it's just the way that it is sometimes. So I'm glad for this platform. I'm glad for people like you, Morgan, who are willing to come on and talk to our folks. And this does stay up for people who watch. If they can't see it live, they can watch it later. So,
Okay. Okay. Well, thank
so
you so much for having
um,
me.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And all of your contact information has been streaming
I
at the
see it.
bottom, so people know how to keep up with you and what you've got going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, and I'm
Okay.
gonna announce like what our next books are and all that. Oh, wait a minute. There is a question. There is a question before I
Okay.
let you go. This is the publishing process so daunting and tedious. What do you do to keep your passion lit?
A lot of times I just talk to my people about it. I remind myself that even the people that you revere, there's still things that they strive for. There's still
Mm-hmm,
awards and residencies and fellowships that they miss out on. So it's very important to remind yourself why you got to the work in the first place. I've
mm-hmm,
been a storyteller since I was a kid. I love telling stories, and I think what keeps my passion lit is that I could be, I was gonna say walking down the street, but I'm in LA now. Everything is you're in the car a lot. But I want to be on the subway, and right when the song tapers off, I hear a snippet of a conversation between two black
mm-hmm,
women, and I'm
mm-hmm,
like, oh, that was interesting. Or I'll hear an argument between two people, and I would be really harshly opposed to one side, but then it still stays in my mind afterwards. I'm like, why do I keep dwelling on it? And whether or not literature is the way to explore that possibility
mm-hmm.
of the other side. So I think what keeps my passion lit is grounding in myself and my community and my faith. What also keeps my passion lit is reminding why I do this, so remembrance. And the third thing that keeps my passion lit is curiosity. And so those are the three things.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for asking that, Laura. Because, yeah, it's just good to hear that. And when you said the arguments and stuff like that, back again to Tyari, that's how an American Marriage came along. She was
Mm-hmm.
said she was in a mall and heard a couple having an intense fellowship discussion, and she
See,
kind of heard,
right,
and
and
her most popular book to date.
and a conversation of all turns to an Oprah's book club pick.
Exactly.
You have no
Exactly.
idea that the seeds that are planted in your brain are what they're going to, how they're going to flourish, how they're going to sprout up again.
Exactly, exactly. So that's important. And I mean, I am not a published author at this point, but I would say, like you said, just taking those things and writing notes or having a recorder where you can, say it or whatever, just some way that you can hold on to that because
Right.
you just never know what those little seeds or those little snippets can become.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's important. A couple more comments, and then I am gonna let you go for
Okay.
real.
Okay.
Let's see here. Kai says she loved your book. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And Natasha loves all of our Black Girl Magic. Yeah,
Thank you.
all Black Girl Magic all the time.
Thank you. Thank you so
That's what
much.
we believe in. So thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go, and then I'm gonna announce our next couple of books because we've got some great things coming up to finish out the rest of the year. So thanks again, Morgan. I hope that
Thank
this
you.
won't be the last time. Oh, the name of the book, I'll put that up for you. Hold on, and I'll leave that up for a minute. It is Caul Baby. Caul Baby. And this is what it looks like. So be on the lookout for. Available anywhere you purchase books.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And you have a great evening/afternoon since it's earlier there than it is
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. All right. You too.
All righty.
All
Take
right. Bye
care.
bye. You
Bye
too.
bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in this evening. And I just want to go ahead and show you what's coming up next because I do have another great author coming up for you in a couple weeks. I'm going to put it on the screen and I'm going to show you the book as well. On the 18th, which is 2 weeks from Monday, from this past Monday, we will be talking to Jane Allen about Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. So that's coming up on the 18th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Some of you may have already read this book. It was out previously. I want to say it was published. She published it on her own, but now she's been picked up by a major publisher, so it's getting a lot more buzz now. So we'll be doing that on the 18th, and then on November the 1st, let me throw this up for you. We've got The Girl at the Back of the Bus by Suzette Harrison. That's coming up on November the 1st. So be on the lookout for those two books. Of course, I will post on the social medias where about the books and the dates and all that, so you can be aware and tune into those conversations. Those are two of the last four that we will have before we close out 2021 and start moving into 2022. The goal for next year is going to be to actually do something once a week. So for those of you all who love to read, or if you're an author or have a favorite author that you'd like to see interviewed here in this space, please reach out to me and let me know. You can send a message through either, do a DM on I can't think right now, Instagram, or send a message through the Brown Girl Collective Facebook page if you have any suggestions, because we want to bring on more women and tell more stories. And who knows, we might even get a black male in here from time to time in the new year. So thanks again to everyone for joining. Thanks for your support and all that we're doing here with Brown Girl Collective and the BGC Book Club. There is a lot more to come in the months and weeks and years ahead. So I appreciate you. I love you. Wish you all the best. And we hope to see you again real soon. Have a good night or good day whenever you're watching. Take care. Stay well. Bye-bye.